I seen the first 2 minutes of this video, and it basically breaks down what his thoughts were as he approaches 30. He's about to be 29 years old, and he said that basically he thinks that he wasted his 20s. All right. So I wanted to react to this video because it is starting to pop up on my timeline over and over and over again. And I'm almost thinking that it's divine that I talk about this. But he talks about what he wish he knew in his 20s. All right. So I want to go over this, and then I want to give you guys some insight, because it's one thing to look at it from the perspective of a person that's turning 29 and looking in hindsight over the last 9 years, and another to be a person that's 40, such as myself, to then say that, I'm not really sure that you know enough to even make this assessment of what it is that's going to come after that, right? And so I want to share this. Shout out to my girl Lucky. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications. If you have not already, look at the last webinar that I just dropped a couple days ago inside of the Patreon. You guys will absolutely love it. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video, and then I'll stop it as I see when necessary, in order to break down different things that I think that he's either gotten right or he's gotten wrong, and then to add a little bit more context into it from a person that looks at everything from a business perspective.
I'm about to turn 29 years old, so I still have 1 year in my 20s. And in a way, I can say that I literally wasted my time and opportunities. I feel like there's so much pressure from the society and the parents and all the environment about being adults, and much with their expectations. And even from ourselves, because, we want these beautiful romances and high-paying jobs and, making your dream come true. But the truth is, we're diving into this adulthood while we're still a bunch of kids. And yeah, for sure, like, we have some, cool parties and meeting new people, and then maybe like you fall in love with someone beautiful in a different countries and some cool experience like that. But the truth is, all these cool experience comes with anxiety and comparing yourself to other people, and especially all these people on the social media, and they've got the life that you want, and even they're younger than you. So this video is about 5 things I wish I knew a little bit before in my 20s. And just to make sure, it doesn't matter, even if you're not 20s or younger or older, it doesn't matter, when you realize that's the moment, everyone has a different pace, everyone has a different timing. So when you start facing, that's the moment, that's the present moment that you have to value. With that said, let's dive in. Number 1, your 20 is an adventure. When we're in 20s, or when you're about to be 20, you have so much expectation of success, what your life should like, and then you're so ready to make your dream come true and then make a massive change in your life. And let me guess, you probably had this expectation of like how your life should look like. It's because we are told to have this expectation, you should get married, you should get a nice job, and then you should go to college. And also you find someone or like icon or somebody who gives you motivation to go after your dreams, to chase your dreams, and accomplish your goals. These people seems like so free, and then traveling around the world and have so much money, and then like enjoying life the fullest. So along the way, we bump into this gap between the current reality and...
So let me stop there, right? He said your 20s is an adventure. I agree, but I think that it's something that's missing, right? The smart people that make, and maybe I'll do a 30s tomorrow and then a 40s next week or something like that. I think that the smartest people and the people that make the best decisions in their 20s understand that the adventure is just a process, okay? I was willing to sacrifice my 20s to do what I wanted to do for the rest of my 30s to do what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, right? Most people use the adventure word and they substitute that for fuck up, right? For women, they pass out on the guy, they pass the guy that they should have married because they wanted to have fun and slut it out. For men, we pass off on a girl that we probably should have married because we wanted to be a playboy and have some fun, right? When we talk about finances, a lot of us adopt a lot of debt and we don't truly embrace the idea of compound interest. For the nerd, I think that the nerd is probably in the best place possible from a financial perspective, but from a social perspective, he finds himself between a rock and a hard place in his 30s and the 40s because he wants to get married and he's always sought companionship, but he sacrificed that in order to make himself greater in his 20s. I think that the healthy balance is similar to what he was saying, but not so similar, to divest yourself from what the standards of society is. Because the minute that you start following the herd, that's when you're going to find yourself between or in a very, very bad space. Okay. What I would advise is to sacrifice, have fun, but don't feel as though you have to meet the expectations of everybody else in order to have fun in your 20s, but to sacrifice so that you can live the rest of your life the way you want to. If you make the sacrifice and you go to college and you take care of business and you decide that you don't want to get that big car in order to impress people that you're not even going to see in the next 5 years, but instead drive that beater and go to school and don't go to, the big college, but instead to go party, but instead to go to the community colleges in order to save money and all of that other type of stuff, right? You don't have to spend your 30s trying to pay off that student loan debt. You don't. You don't have to start spending your 30s trying to figure out what you want to do because, contrary to popular belief, most guys don't even start to get themselves together until they get into their 30s. Let me see what else he got to say.
And ideal reality. Okay, so I'm curious. Let me ask you this. Would you rather be realistic or would you rather dream big? Let me know in the comments. And in my opinion, and what I've learned through my experience about this topic is that we are told to stay realistic, even though when we are kids, we dream big, we dream whatever we want. But then along the way, along the journey of being adult and maturing, we learn that we should stay realistic because of the other people's opinions. And some people call you crazy, some people laugh at you, some people, make a joke about your dreams and, start to face this failure and some, other things that hit you in the face. And our ambitions and dreams become smaller and smaller. And that's because we start to care about what other people think about us. But the truth is, people will say shit anyway. And I think it's so ironic the fact that the people love their opinions, people are in love, and people believe their opinions, yet they don't believe in themselves because it makes them feel better, not too scared. So they'll say whatever they want to say regardless of what you're doing, even if you're doing something great or, contributing other people's happiness, helping people. It doesn't matter. People will say shit anyway. So it is absolutely better to do it anyway. And there's a quote from the Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism from China, a journey of 1,000 miles, beginning with a single step. We tend to
He's right. Like, it doesn't matter. I think what people don't understand is that it doesn't matter whether you're doing a right thing or you're doing a wrong thing. You're always going to have critics. You're always going to have people that don't agree with you. You're going to have people that look at you and say, you should have did this or you should have did that. They're going to go off on you. They're going to say, you should be partying with us. I can't believe what you're doing. Or they're going to say, listen, if you did go party, you're going to have people like me that's kicking your ass and saying that, listen, you should be able to make the sacrifice and don't go out. You're going to have to be able to filter through the noise to hear the people that actually got your best interests at heart. Because everybody needs a mentor, right? Everybody needs a person that can guide them, give them insight, information, in a sense, a father, right? Or a father figure or a person that can give you the game on how it is that you can steer your life in a different direction because you don't know what you don't know, which is one of the reasons why fathers are so important being in a household as you grow up and before you become an adult, right? But you're going to run into people that have so much to say. And I think that the people that are able to silence that noise and then still make the decision that's in their best interest or stand up for themselves and say, no, I don't want to do what the overwhelming majority of people is doing. Because if that was the case, then everybody wouldn't be in debt and asking Biden for forgiveness for their student loans. No, I don't necessarily feel like I have to go on that college campus and incur a bunch of debt in order to get a basket weaving degree. No, I need to make the decision to actually rock out with the person that's building with me instead of being for the streets. then I think that you'll start to get better results. But he's right about that.
Underestimate what we can do with that single step, but then we tend to overestimate that imagination without action. And this is because most of the time we are filled with ego and self-consciousness. Your ego and self-consciousness will be the biggest enemy. It's not because your family is rich enough. It's not because you don't have a cool friends. It's not because you're living in a poor country.
Self-consciousness.
It always has been our ego and self-consciousness. If you don't take your time and the courage to face it, it will linger in your life. But while your emotions and your mind and everything are controlled and dominated by your ego and self-consciousness, then you won't be able to have a relationship. You have to be aligned with it in order to build a healthy relationship by becoming familiar with it. But often
And this is where me and him differ, right? Because I don't think it's your ego and the self-consciousness that's going to be one of the biggest factors. I think it's who you spend your time with and who you influence by. You said ego and self-consciousness, and you need to be one with it. I think is influence and impact, and who you spend your time with is going to be one of the biggest factors of whether you go down path A or you go down path B in your 20s. I'm being absolutely honest. Any girl that you meet, it doesn't matter who it is that she is or who it is that she projects himself to be in front of you. If you look at her friends, you can get a better sense of who she is and if she's actually for the streets, if she's a good person, if she's going in the right direction, so on and so forth. It's all based off of who you spend your time with because everybody is going to rub off on everybody. She's going to rub off on them. They're going to rub off on her. But everybody is in their 20s are influenced and pushed in a direction by something or someone. It's one of the reasons why people always say, "Well, listen, I want to know if she got a good family or if she got a father figure in her life." It don't necessarily mean that you're not going to run into a chick that's not going to ruin your life. But I think that who you're influenced by and who you spend the majority of your time around, which is one of the reasons why I'm an advocate against sending your daughter off to school by herself in a space that you can't participate in her life in, is probably going to be one of the biggest mistakes that you make as a father ever in history. But I think that who you spend your time around and who you influence by has a bigger impact on your life than self consciousness and ego. I think it's necessary to have ego. I think it's necessary to be conscious about who you are. I think that ego can be a good thing, especially if you're a man, because it allows for you to actually be a conqueror and not to be conquered. So I don't know. I think I look at it a little bit differently.
sometimes we perceive them as something bad or unwanted
Shout out to
aspect
David.
about
Reason your super
ourselves.
chat short.
But let me remind you of something. We're imperfect. And that's actually the rule of the true beauty, and the discipline of it is to accept without resistance. On the way to 20s, when we're teenagers especially, we encounter a lot of aspects and temptations that shape our perception and ideas. So we create this image of perfection and try to match with it, based on what society says or based on what your parents says. And maybe looking at, your friends and Instagram and everything. We end up like hurting ourselves because when we don't match with their expectation or we don't match with this image of perfection, we start to think that, okay, we're not good enough, like we start to hurt ourselves.
Says the guy with the long flowing hair. Listen, it's nothing wrong with striving for perfection, right? And you also gonna have to understand that the goalposts are going to continue to be moved based off of your experience and based off of what you think perfection is. And I even often say to people, and I tell them all the time, I say, listen, even your purpose is going to change because your purpose is defined by the work, right? It's defined by where you are in your life. What you thought your purpose was in your teens and your 20s is going to be much different than your 30s and your 40s because what you're trying to do and how you're trying to impact and leave a mark on this earth is going to be based off of where you are in your current circumstances in life, right? And so I think that it's okay to strive for perfection. I think that it's okay to not always lean into the idea. And I hate it when people say stuff like, well, ain't nobody perfect or I'm not perfect. All that is an excuse as to why you're not doing what you're supposed to do or why you can't meet the expectation or why you're not striving to be a better version of yourself. If you don't have that goal in front of you, if you don't have that carrot in front of you, if you don't, I tell people all the time, especially even on coaching calls, I force them to define what a perfect life looks like for them at that particular time. Because if you don't have anything that you're striving for, when I hear somebody saying, I'm reading super chat shortly, when I hear people say stuff like, I say, well, okay, well, what are you looking to get out of these calls? Or, what is it that you want out of life? And they say, I just want to be successful, or I want to just be financially free. Well, what the hell is that? What does that look like? Being able to do what I want to do. Okay, well, I want to be a millionaire. Okay, it's a big difference between being a millionaire that is net worth of $2 million and that has a net worth of $200 million or $20 million. It's a big difference. What does this look like? What am I pushing you towards? How can we reverse engineer this to where I can break it out in milestones so that we can then document and we can trend towards success? But if you don't have a North Star, if you don't have anything that you're working towards, then you literally just existing, and then you're going to find yourself in your 40s and your 50s talking about, Anton, you know what? I thought I was going to be an African booty scratcher, or I thought I was going to be a basket weaver, but I'm not perfect. You know what you are. You know exactly who you are, and you know where your shortcomings are. I don't want to hear that victim Olympian talk. I'm reading super chat shortly. Thank y'all for continuing to hold me down.
Stupid image is actually created for someone else's, like to be someone who be liked, or too much with parents' expectations and everything. It's not for ourselves, it's actually made for someone else. The real importance of being in 20s is learning how to love yourself and take care of yourself. We often get drawn into this judgment and pressures by school, parents, and your boss and everything, and which transfer it to us, these pains and these struggles. And it seems
I have a very low tolerance for this whole self love. You learn learn to love yourself. I have listen, maybe I'm wrong, but I have a low tolerance for this, love who you are, kumbaya, let's get a whole bunch of therapy. It doesn't really matter what your parents told you growing up and all of this other type of stuff. Now he's showing me his age. He's showing me that let me hear some more what he got to say before I get my thought.
like as if we are supposed to deal with someone else's shit. And then we don't learn how to love ourselves, we don't learn how to take care of yourself, but instead we learn it is selfish to take your time and just spend it for yourself, or it is sad to be alone and to enjoy your solitude. And every single person in this world will bump into the wall of this self-realization, but it is never too late to start love yourself and to start take care of yourself, regardless what other people say.
Ain't that what Tia Mowry said that she was gonna do? Ain't that why Tia Mowry said that she was getting out of her marriage? Because she needed she realized that self love was the thing that she needed to do. There's a couple of caveats associated with this also. One of them, for example, is kids. I always tell people that be selfish before you can be selfless. That's the caveat, right? And the reason I say that is because you can't help anybody until you help yourself first. Now, that's a much different narrative than self love, right? Because I think that love is sacrifice, love is growth, love is caring for somebody else. Love is making a sacrifice, understanding that, now so that you can do what you want to do for the rest of your life. The self-love narrative gives somebody an excuse to not do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. Instead, they say, you know what? I just need to love myself, or I'm about to go on this trip because I needed this. I needed this self-care moment. No, you need to take your bitch ass to work so that, your landlord not kicking you out, and then you asking Biden for forgiveness for your student loans because you didn't do what you were supposed to do in the first place. That's not self-love. That's self-hate.
Says or what society says. But the one thing though, never rush into the result of what you want or the conclusion of everything, because your 20s is the investment. You might think that you have to make it right now, you have to make it when you're 20s, right? But hell no. Some people have what you want, but many other people want what you have. Yeah, of course, other people's success caught my eye too, but the truth is we're different. Everyone is different, so you can't go through other people's path. And that's why you have to invest your time, money, and your energy onto something really matters to you or your future self. And here's the most important thing that I should have invested way earlier in my 20s. Communication skills, side hustles, dating life. Communication skills will definitely help you to get what you want
I
and
like
to
that.
connect with others in terms of making friends.
Now we on the same page. Those last points I wasn't feeling it, but now we on the same page for a minute. Let me hear a little bit more. So I was just about to cut it off. I was just about to cut it off.
And doing a business. The side hustle will reduce the stress from financial aspect in your life. You know, if you have a little bit of money coming in and out, you can also feel a little bit more stress-free and also think stress-free. Because there's way too many people are struggling and feeling so stressed just because.
I think everybody should have a side hustle, honestly. Whether you're a woman, a man, I think that everybody should have a side hustle, a second job, or something like that. I don't know where we got this whole 40-hour work week thing from. I think it's corny. I'm not feeling it. I know that there's this whole movement towards a 4-day work week, working 32 hours a week and still getting the same amount of work done. That's bullshit. Absolutely bullshit. I feel him. I think that everybody should have some extra income, a side hustle. Then you want to join the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat for you to figure out exactly what you're supposed to do with that money so that you don't fumble it and you're not increasing your lifestyle so that you're still having the same money problems and stress that you had before you got your side hustle. But I do think that everybody should have a side hustle. I'm reading super chat shortly. Thank you guys for holding me down.
Because of the financial reason. And then when it comes to the dating life, don't invest your emotions way too early stage of the, getting to know each other. Because if you think about it, if you have a best friend or if you have a family, you guys know each other for such a long time. But when it comes to the dating, we tend to invest emotions way too early, or like your actions, you're giving way too much. So step back from all the result that you attach to it and detach yourself from the result and an outcome and the people and ideas and have a flat perspective. But you have to have a faith and then lit the fire within you of enthusiasm and desire and turn that
All right, I get it.